Hey guys, Soda Railway Studios here, bringing you a different kind of video today. Today we're going to be discussing every time a Thomas character's name has been used or heard in Angelina Ballerina. Some of these may be a bit more obscure than others, but we'll have a look. Anyway, let's dive right in. We're of course going to start with the most obvious one, that of course being that Angelina's younger cousin is named Henry, and he of course shares his name with Henry the Green Engine from Thomas. Kind of funny how Keith Wickham was in both shows and yet he only voiced one of these Henrys. Alice technically shares her name with two Thomas characters. It was the name of one of Duck's coaches in the Railway series, and it was also the name of the little girl that Thomas was delivering presents to in Thomas and the Birthday Mail. William doesn't technically share his actual name with a Thomas character, but there are two characters with whom he shares a nickname, those being Bill and Billy. Can't believe I'm mentioning this guy in a video, but still. Miss Lily is a somewhat interesting case, because with the way characters like Mr. Operatsky talk around her, that implies that Lily is actually her first name. Either way, she shares this name with Lily Stone, the character Mara Wilson played in Thomas and the Magic Railroad. Ironically, Mara Wilson is most famous for playing the character of Roald Dahl's Matilda, which is Mrs. Mouseling's first name. I should also mention that for the last three, there are also three fan-made Thomas characters by Wild Nor'Wester, whose names are Alice, William, and Lily, though these of course are nowhere close to being canon. One of the perhaps lesser-known members of Angelina's class is named Flora, a character who rarely gets mentioned by name and has very little screen time. So it's rather appropriate actually that she shares her name with a Thomas character that has a similar reputation. That of course being Flora the Steam Tram, who only appeared once in the season 12 episode, Tram Trouble. Much like William, Sammy doesn't technically share his name with a Thomas character. However, as most of you guys will know, Sammy is a nickname for Sam or Samuel, at least in masculine terms. And there are plenty of Thomas characters that have names referring to that. Sam also happens to be the name of Angelina's voice actress, Finty Williams' son. In one episode, Angelina finds an injured butterfly in the woods and names it Arthur, much like the character from Thomas who was introduced in the 7th season. Funnily enough, this isn't the only time a TV distribution company has had two shows with characters named Arthur. The King of Mouseland is named George, as I believe we find out in the special Angelina's Princess Dance. Either way, he of course shares his name with George the Steamroller from Thomas, though his name is more likely a reference to the real-life King Georges, who of course reigned in the Georgian era. Now on to the next steps, for only one instance, that being with Vicky, who, again, technically doesn't share her name with a Thomas character. However, Vicky is a nickname for Victoria, which was the name of a character introduced in the penultimate book of the Railway series, Thomas and Victoria. Now on to one that's a bit more obscure in both Thomas and Angelina's cases. This wasn't brought up in the TV series, but in the book Angelina's Birthday, it's revealed that Angelina has an aunt named Amy, which was also the name of the little girl who Henry helps in the Thomas book, Henry Goes to the Hospital. And that's it for this video. I actually had a lot of fun doing this video, and there were a lot more instances focusing on the topic than I first thought. But then again, 64 Zoo Lane is just as guilty of having Thomas characters' names. And ironically, it also starred Keith Wickham. I'm sensing a pattern here. Anyway, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you all next time.